Music. It's one of the simplest joys in life. Everyone listens to it. I listen to it. You listen to it. At least I certainly hope so. If you don't, then I don't know how you can live a life that's simply that depressing. Music has the ability to convey the human experience with no words spoken in such a way that no other medium can. It's been there to help express the joys of life as a whole. There to express the feelings of sadness. Patriotism. Feelings of injustice. Love.
So please forgive this helpless haze I'm in.
Breaking up.
This time, I'm telling you, we are never, ever getting back together.
And of course, the feeling of apathy. Music seems like it's for everyone, right?
Wrong!
Unfortunately, it isn't always as it seems. Behind the scenes, the music world is incredibly
Toxic.
Women instrumentalists have historically been sidelined in preference to men due to a lot of predispositions. One particular example of this predisposition is with trumpet instrumentalists. Female trumpet players are commonly assumed to not be able to play as high as their male counterparts, when realistically that is not the case at all. One particular example of a female trumpet instrumentalist that is an absolutely killin' player is Kellin Hannas, one of my absolute favorite trumpet players, and also one of my favorite content creators on the topic of music.
Hi, my name is Kellin, and I'm an eligible single lady looking for an eligible single man. I can cook, I can clean, and I can...
One other weird thing in the music world is that people gender instruments, believe it or not. Historically, people have been placing women on instruments such as the flute or the clarinet, not instruments like the trombone, the saxophone, and the tuba, because it's clearly impossible for a woman to play saxophone at all, or a guy to play flute. That simply can't happen. That's just, how it is. At least according to the way everything's been historically, that's how it is. The reason why nothing's been done about this is down to the music education system, in my opinion. Music education is a very big task. You have to teach music history, analysis techniques, how to express yourself, how to find your confidence, and how to read music. And all of this is in addition to teaching the damn instrument to begin with. Music education has historically been leaning to the discussion of Eurocentric music with very little depiction of non-Eurocentric music. For the longest time, in music history classes, you would sit down and hear about why Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven are the greatest composers of all time, with very little debate on the matter. But that's never entirely been the case. Music is so much greater than just the European landscape. There's Indian music, Mongolian throat singing, Balkan weddings, and, where I'll be directing a fair amount of focus right now, African music. African music is incredibly rhythmically driven, and this was something that Africans brought over to America due to, reasons. These less than ideal conditions led to the creation of work songs, which were tunes that they would sing while working to help pass the time and convey how they were feeling on the matter. This generated a call and response effect in music, where generally a line will be said, and another line will be said back. The combination of these complex rhythms plus the call and response became the beginnings of what is nowadays known as jazz. Jazz had it rough. It came from an incredibly marginalized community and it had its beginnings as a solidified genre during the time of segregation and an incredibly racist political and social environment in America. Jazz barely had any chance of getting off its feet, but it is now almost universally agreed to be one of the greatest contributions that America has made to culture as a whole. You know, I guess jazz is really a fantastic metaphor for the indomitable human spirit. You know, regardless of how much it was repressed and been held down, it found its way out and became one of the greatest things to happen in music. It's really, really quite impressive what it did. It's almost like a rags to riches story, and it quite honestly beautifully parallels what the American dream is. Going from nothing and becoming something. Personally, I don't think jazz was able to do this purely alone. I do think that part of the reason jazz was able to take off was because it was introduced in the education system. When jazz became the popular music at the time, this was also around the same time that jazz also began to be taught in schools. Not only did this help with the boom of the appreciation of jazz music, it also made it an activity for people to be a part of. People could play popular music and have it be taught through their schools. Not only did it get people freshly excited for music, but it also brought up the discussion of race in music, and allowed for children to learn about great jazz artists who came from different racial backgrounds, and gave them an opportunity to look up to a group of people who were marginalized, showing their value as a people above anything else, and normalizing having black musicians in the music scene. Music education was able to bring kids to the discussion of race at a time where that needed to happen, and it was able to bring new voices and faces forward so that kids can look and see beyond their race. And as MLK said,
but by the content of their character.
New genres were able to grow from this, almost legitimizing jazz as a music. This can be seen in the popularizations of genres like funk, blues, rock and roll, R&B, and most recently, rap music, which then begs the question, why did this not happen with women yet? I mean, there have always been incredible women throughout music history. Let's go back to really, really early music. Let's say, the year 1098, to the birth of Hildegard of Bingen. Bingen? I don't know. Who is one of, if not the first woman in music. It's at least documented. She was a massive theologian and philosopher who also just so happened to be a musician and did her own fair share of composing. Let's take a listen to some of her music real quick. Yeah, that one's an absolute banger right there. Due to both her work in religion along with her music, she's viewed as a saint, and her works have been canonized as part of the literature of the Roman Catholic Church. Needless to say, becoming a part of the musical canon for one of the largest religions in history is no small feat by any means. Then there's Clara Schumann, the wife of Robert Schumann, you know, the famous composer and pianist. She was both a pianist and a composer, but she had issues publishing her music under her name, as she was a woman, and it was virtually impossible for women to get their work published. So most of her tunes were actually put under her husband's name and published as a quick and easy way to get around. This was actually a common trend at the time for female composers, because the same thing also happened for Fanny Mendelssohn, who is the sister of Felix Mendelssohn, who you may know for... She also used her brother's name and his clout to get her music published. Then why aren't they the ones that everyone immediately thinks of when they think of music? Well, easy. It comes down to sexism that's just been perpetuated through the music environment. Music in its most modern form originates from Europe in around the 1600s, which, as you can probably imagine, was not the most friendly of circumstances for women compared to now. The rehearsal and performance environment has really not shifted much from that time to now. The most that has changed has been the audience etiquette with Beethoven. Women have historically been pushed out in favor of males because of their sex, and it creates a constant stream of discouragement for women to get involved with music, which has kind of forced them just out of the scene. And if you're forcing people out of the club, they're not gonna want to be a part of that club. There's never been an easy opportunity for them to get their voices out about how they're treated in the music world. But now, there are people out there in the music scene who are providing a fantastic environment for women. Two prime examples in the modern jazz scene in New York are the Diva Jazz Orchestra and the Grace Fox Big Band. Both of these ensembles are meant to showcase many talented women and give them a bigger presence in the modern jazz scene. So sure, I've told you about all the problems, and that I do think education can in fact help. Let's talk about the way that I plan to include women's voices in music as a teacher. Alright, so step 1. I want to feature artists to my students. I want to show them videos of musicians doing their thing so that they can get inspired, and in a way, see themselves in the music. The first step is representation, and being able to supply that for students will help them be able to grow up and see that there is a spot for them as a musician, regardless of their gender or race or orientation, sexuality, anything. Step 2. Get my students to play music written by women. It's one thing to see musicians play, it's another thing to actually experience their music through the process of playing it. It opens so many new insights and views as to how and why the piece was composed and what the composer's trying to say. And we need to hear more of women's voice in music. Step 3. I want students to go and learn about new artists that they can personally relate to. What I can do is I can make them present about an artist and do a show and tell kind of thing. Yep, it sounds like a lot for just a band class, but there should be a lot more discussion and talking about music in the classroom. During my senior year of high school, which was the year of the COVID, we did all of our band classes online. But instead of playing, we did something truthfully genius, and we discussed music.
There's apparently a documentary on Netflix about him. Lee Morgan. I don't know what it's called, but check it out. Documentary, Netflix, Lee Morgan. It's about his lady who killed him. Anyway, okay.
I firmly believe that this is what made me fall even deeper in love with music than I already have. Being able to have discussions at a high level with everyone I was already playing music with was an incredibly eye-opening experience. It showed me about a lot more artists, more history, learned a lot more stories, and, most importantly, I learned a lot about everyone else around me. That's my plan as an educator. But what can you do to help with this? Well, it's pretty easy, honestly. Support women artists who you like. I've been accumulating a list of fantastic artists that I'll put in the description of this video. I'm very jazz-leaning, so it's pretty much only jazz artists. But I also want to make this an open forum for everyone to find more women in music. So feel free to put women who inspire you in the comments, and eventually we'll have a massive database for finding and supporting artists who are unfortunately not as well known or given the same opportunities as their male counterparts. Well, that's it. That's the video. Took a lot longer to edit than I expected. This is the first time I've done a project this massive and of this big undertaking. And here's the audio booth that I set up for myself, makeshift in the study hall of my dorm. Here's the Premiere and Logic projects, and I learned a lot about editing in addition to all of this. But anyway, my sources are linked in the description. I have links to all of my video assets, my script, my rubric, and my reflection are all present underneath the video in the description. So thank you so much for watching. I haven't done anything like this, so if it's a little weird or wrong, sorry. But thank you.